There are over 7,000 known languages in the world today, but there's one that all of us can speak. Think about it. If you have a tune that's stuck in your head, you have to hear it for it to go away. If you hear a song, it can take you immediately back to your childhood or that place that you were in high school, the very moment that you heard it for the first time. Music is the one thing that all of us can understand. Well, hey guys, it's Ashley. And on this episode of Meet Our Neighbors, I'm going to introduce you to the Wayland School of Music. Let's go meet them. So you and I have known each other at least online for a little bit.
Right.
But we've never met in person,
That's
which
right.
is just so wrong.
It's silly. We have talked about it and never got around to it.
We have. So who are you?
I am Penny Wayne-Shapiro. I'm the founder and director of Wayland School of Music.
And what is the Wayland School of Music?
So Wayland School of Music serves students from the age of, at this point, 0 to 100, if they want to. We offer private lessons from outstanding professional teachers and group classes, some of which happen through Wayland Recreation, and community performances and events that hopefully bring people in from all over.
So I started taking piano lessons at age 4. You said you started 0. Just piano or what?
No, the 0 is the early childhood program, and it starts with musical beginnings, which is a mother or parent and baby class. Then we have musical explorers for kids who are a little older, instrument explorers where we expose them to 7 or 8 different instruments and see which one takes their fancy. And hopefully at that point, they're beginning to be ready to go into private lessons.
So is it just piano or?
No. I am actually a violinist, and it started with violin, but at this point we have violin, viola, cello, bass, piano, flute, all brass instruments, and voice. I think that's all of it.
Oh, see, I was a woodwind. I played the saxophone. So do you have any woodwinds as well?
Oh, we do. I mean, we just have the flute, but I have people that I refer out for clarinet and saxophone.
Oh,
I know good people here in town.
We'll have to make you a little bit more woodwind friendly.
Okay, we can certainly talk about that.
So tell me about your teachers.
So we have a very unique and stringent hiring policy, which I don't think any other school anywhere has. We require them to have 10 years of professional teaching experience, and the most I've ever seen asked for anywhere else actually is 3. The reason for that is because you are a very different teacher 10 years in from how you are at the beginning. You've been exposed to many different kinds of kids, different learning styles. You're not just teaching the way you were taught, which is what we tend to do when we start out. And the other requirement is they must have made it as professional performers. So we have teachers, in my case, I was in the London Philharmonic for a while. We've had teachers who played in the Boston Symphony, the Atlanta Symphony, the St. Petersburg Philharmonic in Russia, all kinds of things like that. Because I actually think it's very important that people who are teaching kids music should be teaching because they really want to do it, that they're still passionate about their instruments and passionate about teaching, and they're not doing it just because they need to pay the rent. So that's the basis on which I hire, and we will leave a position open rather than hire someone just to fill a spot.
So when you say that you're hiring the experts, you really are hiring the experts.
Oh yeah, I'm very picky. I mean, I've had people who have applied. At this point, people are coming to us because they know that this is a kind of a positive place to work, and that we treat the parents well, and we treat the kids well, and we treat the teachers well. But I'm not going to hire them unless, first of all, they fulfill those requirements. And then there has to be the indefinable, that you can tell they're going to be someone who's good with kids, who's pleasant to work with, who's willing to be part of a team that creates the whole ethos of the school.
Can you hear the difference between this one and this one. Okay, let's do this measure one more time.
So when did you open?
We started actually in 1997, so it's what, 26 years and counting. And that at that point, that was just me. I was teaching at that point out of my home. I had just moved to Wayland. I'd gotten engaged to my husband, and we were looking towards raising a family. And I knew that I did not want to be just driving around all over the place doing performances and trying to raise a kid at the same time. And I had, actually, it starts a little bit earlier. When I came to Boston on sabbatical, I finally had time to do some teaching and discovered that I enjoyed it, and I felt I was quite good at it, although not as good as I was 10 years later. And I wanted to create a better work-life balance just in terms of raising a kid and being able to be home. So that was how it started at that point in 1997. I said it was just me teaching at home. And in 2007, I hired the first of our other teachers, and it began to grow from there.
So that 10 years of you teaching by yourself, like you really lived that out.
Oh yeah, and I mean I had certainly, from the time I arrived in Boston, which was 1990, I was teaching regularly. Before that, I really didn't have time. It was just, colleagues would say, "Oh, can you help my daughter? She has an audition coming up," and I would give them a lesson or two, and that was always fun. But that's not developing that long relationship over time and taking someone from zero up.
Mm-hmm.
That started really when I moved to Boston.
So then from 1997 to now, do you know how many students have come through here?
Oh my gosh, I have no idea. I mean, we have close to 300 now.
Now.
So over 25 years, it's probably close to 1,000.
Wow.
I would be surprised if it wasn't at this point, but it's impossible to quantify because it started with me. And then it was 2 or 3 teachers, and then it was 5 teachers, and it was 7 teachers, and now it's probably 24 or 25. I should have counted them before you came.
We can count later.
Right.
So then the students that leave here, are they getting music scholarships? Are they performing in philharmonics themselves?
It's a very wide range. I mean, I think we have kids who drop in middle school, because the social piece kicks in. We have kids who play all the way through high school. We've certainly had some music scholarships. There's no one that I know of right now who's gone professional, but that's a very tough path, and it's tougher now, I think, than it was. But what we want for them is that whatever their plans are, whether they're just going to be playing seriously in college, and we certainly have some students who have done that, or just going to be someone who does music for fun, or has a string quartet with their friends, or bangs around on the drums or whatever, that they are well set up to do that as well as they can. Because what matters to me is that they be able to play with ease. So whatever those goals are, they can reach them.
Do you have a particular mission that either you or the school uses as the honing piece for the school itself?
Yeah, I think that's really it, and it came out of my own experience, because my early teachers were very nice people, but they weren't great teachers, to be very honest. And I think teaching in those days was less well organized, and there was less training than there is now. But that early teaching really impacted me. I had a lot of tension, I had a lot of faulty technique, and because of that, I had a lot of stuff going on in my head that wasn't helpful. And I was certainly talented and passionate, and I made it to the Royal Academy of Music, so I wasn't doing so badly, but I wasn't happy with the whole way I was set up. And I spent a lot of time there watching other people who played well and asking them, well, how do you do this? What's your conception of that? And learning from that. And I think to a certain extent, I taught myself. And obviously I overcame those problems and, eventually made it, but I'm sure there are many people that don't. So what's super important to me is that right from the start, you are setting people up right. For example, if you look at my students, They all have very nice positioning. They have positioning that works. One thing I'm quite proud of is they don't all look the same. They're not cookie cutter. You know, you work with each student's body. Maybe this one has longer arms, this one has wider, you know, I have great spaces between my fingers. Not everybody has that. But you teach them within the boundaries of technique that really works. So whether they're playing Twinkle or they're playing some advanced repertoire, they can play it really well and feel comfortable and enjoy playing it. And the other thing is just getting them comfortable sharing with that. And I was thinking about this earlier because I knew we were going to be talking. Nobody ever really talked to me about how to handle performance and the pressure of performance. And you just kind of got up there and did it. And what you learn later is that everybody has some edginess and adrenaline around performing, right? But people didn't talk about it then. People are much more open about it now. There's a lot more done with performance psychology and how to prepare properly. And that's one of the things that we also try and do with the kids so that they get up there and they feel very comfortable. And we frame the performances we have as a celebration so that everybody is being supported in the learning they've done. We have kids playing who've had 3 or 4 weeks of lessons, and they play a piece that's 2 notes with a teacher.
And you already have them on stage?
Yes, yes.
Wow.
And the parents are like, well, she's not ready to do recital yet. And then we send the videos and say, look, this is how we work. So maybe they're just playing 1 note and the teacher's accompanying them, but they're getting comfortable right from the beginning with sharing with an audience and being really supported and applauded for that. We've had many parents say to us, oh, well, that wasn't my childhood recital. That was a very different experience. So.
It's so true. I started taking piano lessons at age 4, and my second piano teacher, we would have monthly recitals at her house with all of her students to get us ready. But no one ever talked to me about what it was going to be like being on stage. It was, well, this is your recital date and get up there and do it.
Get it right, right?
So if you don't talk about it, I thought I was so strange with being nervous.
I think certainly for people my age that was true. And then much later on, I heard people, for example, in the London Phil talking about how they felt sick all afternoon before a concert. And I was like, I never knew you felt like that. And anyone that felt like that, and I certainly had my share of no's, we felt we had some strange disease, you know, that nobody else had. And it's universal.
Yeah.
And there's a lot written and a lot taught now about how to reframe that nervous energy as excitement and as, you know, the desire to communicate, and also how to practice not getting distracted by it and how to practice performing. And I think that's one of the things that we do well, because the kids, they do get up and play, you know, even the ones who are uncomfortable about it, they end up mostly getting up and playing, and they get applauded and they say, oh, I can do this. And that will help them in all kinds of other situations, because you have to talk to people, right? There are many jobs where you have to present. My son, when he did his bar mitzvah, it was a breeze. He was used to being in front of people, right? Because he'd been doing it all his life.
So you taught him well?
Well, his piano teacher was wonderful. She taught him well, but she also had those monthly performances. But the thing is that you get accustomed to doing that, and then you have confidence in all kinds of situations.
Before you even said that, I was thinking how well that lesson could just help everyone, whether you're in middle school, high school, or even as adults.
Because you're going to have to stand up and present your history project or something.
Yeah, right? Absolutely. From the boardroom to the history classroom,
and you have,
absolutely work.
And you have strategies to do it. And I think, you know, other than the music itself, and I think music should be everybody's birthright.
Yes.
But there's so much to be learned from the study of an instrument in terms of self-discipline and overcoming obstacles. It's not going to be easy all the time. You know, sometimes parents say, well, I just want him to have fun. And I'm very upfront with them. I say, well, we will make it as fun as possible, but it's not always going to be fun. Music can be hard, right?
Especially music theory, because some people like music theory, but that's just not fun. At least it wasn't for me.
Yeah, you know, I think if it's worked in properly from the beginning,
yes,
and you understand the foundations and how it's built, then yeah, it should be part of your general music learning. So if you're trying to play a piece, you should be able to clap the rhythm. You should be able to name the notes. So if we're doing that from the beginning, they're growing up with that language also just like you read to your kid, right? You talk to your kid, you read to your kid, and they begin to understand that these squiggles mean something. You have to weave everything together when you're teaching an instrument too, so that they're not just staring at those dots and not really having the strategies to figure out what they mean.
So what you're saying is that music basically is a universal language.
Oh, it absolutely is. It absolutely is. And with the early childhood classes, we're exposing them not just to tunes, but they are absorbing elements of music theory even at that age, because any class, and the kids are completely unaware of this, and the parents may well be too, but they're doing something fast, they're doing something slow, they're doing something with rhythm, they're doing something with pitch, they're doing something with dynamics, which is loud and soft. They're experiencing all these things, physically with fine and gross motor skills. It's becoming part of their just vocabulary of how music is. So when they pick up an instrument, those concepts are already somewhat wired into their brain. So it should start much earlier than just when you're, picking up the piano and things. That's middle C.
So my son is 6 years old, and I have said all along that he will have at least 1 year of piano lessons. Are you taking any new students right now?
Yes. We're fairly far into the school year. As we're talking, it's November, but we do have some spaces. And I'm also, as demand grows, I'm always looking at adding somebody new if we can. So I have, for example, a room free on Friday where I could add another piano teacher. So if we get a lot of piano students on the wait list, or we think some are coming out of the early childhood classes that are going to want piano, then I'm always looking for someone to join the team and be able to take those students.
So if someone wants to contact you to either come in here, whether it's for the 0 age children or up to however, how do they contact you?
Sure. Well, they can go to our website, which is waylandmusic.com, and that's all one word. Or they can email me, and I'm Penny, Penny, @waylandmusic.com, and we'll be happy to help you.
Well, can I go listen to some of the lessons?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, let's go do it. I started performing when I was 3 years old, and at 4, I was taking piano lessons. It may seem like that's a young age, but to me, it was normal. I grew up with an organ in the living room and a baby grand in the formal dining room. My father was always singing. And to me, music is very important, but it's also the single language that we all can speak. And if you are looking to learn an instrument, to perfect your instrument, or just to try it out, contact Penny. Come to the Wayland School of Music and make my neighbor your neighbor too. What neighbor do you think we should meet next?